is the Elsa Kurt Show.
Oh, hey, hi. How are you, Clay?
You.
I'm good. I like how we pretend like we're just seeing each other for the first time right this second, and we weren't just chit-chatting beforehand. I am this week I am the queen of giving away all the secrets of content creators. I just put out a video today about that, and there's another one. Of course, we're chit-chatting before we come on air here. We've got to talk about what we're putting on the show tonight and what the order of things are. I don't care. I'll give it all away. Doesn't matter to me.
And just catching up as friends and people. I mean,
yeah.
Listen, folks, some of you don't know this. Elsa and I have only actually met each other in person one time. Showed together 2.5 years.
Yep.
We had lunch together once. So
it was so cool. It was like we see each other all the time, though. That was the funniest part. I thought, like, oh yeah, this is my friend Clay. Hey.
Absolutely no different than sitting across from each other's laptops. It was.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? Yeah. No, so funny. I don't know. People just click. That's just how it goes. Yeah. And that is the case. That is the case. As usual, you picked out a bunch of really great topics for us. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. Even last week was a busy week, and as always, the cycle keeps rolling. We are a little early this week because Elsa is traveling soon to go see those grandbabies she loves so much. But folks, it is Tuesday evening, 7:30-ish on the East Coast as we are recording, and we do have a bunch of topics. We've got international stuff, we got presidential stuff, we got all kinds of stuff, and we'll get started right after this.
7 weeks and still no sign of Nancy Guthrie. ICE agents hitting airports to fix the travel mess Democrats left us in. Gas prices climbing again because the world won't let us keep the strait open. Trump pauses on Iran while the UK plays games with our alliance. Joe Kent makes the rounds, stirring the pot. And is Las Vegas finally losing its shine? We're sorting the facts, calling out the nonsense, and keeping it real for real Americans. Let's go.
I feel a little scared by that voice. It was like a horror movie voice. I was a little
quite Vincent Price for all of us old people, but
right? Yeah. It was very ominous sounding. Sorry, guys. Don't be scared. It's okay.
Almost on the sinister side, I think.
Yes. That was not intentional. Jeez, I'll have to remember that one for I don't know, like around Halloween time. My goodness.
Very good.
Oh, so right off the bat here, let's talk about the Nancy Guthrie case. So this is really crazy, and we're going to get into all the different aspects, opinion-wise, on the coverage of this, because what are people without having controversy about something, disagreeing about something, right? So she's obviously still missing. For those of you, just the recap, she is an 84-year-old grandmother snatched from her Tucson home on February 1st. And 7 weeks later, her kids, including, of course, Savannah Guthrie, are still begging for leads. They have $1 million reward on the table and 0 arrests. So, let's start with like kind of the human aspect side of this, which is, gut-wrenching, just whether it's somebody famous or famous adjacent or not. The fact that this is an elderly woman who was, abducted in the middle of the night, and there's ransom notes. I mean, this is the stuff right out of a movie, really, right? Like this is something you see happening in a movie, and of course, it's playing out in front of us. If you're to listen to the right-leaning take on this, you've got Fox and Newsmax who have been staying pretty heavily, on it as far as following the case, pleading for eyes on the case and all that stuff. If you listen to some on the left and the right, I don't know if that's even fair to say it's just the left, but some people on the left and the right and the middle are kind of saying, what the heck, there's a lot of attention on this woman just because she's, the mother of somebody famous. What about all of the other similar cases of people, who have been kidnapped or have disappeared, and there's no big, ransom and news coverage and all of that stuff. And yeah, I get that. I mean, there's something to be said for that, but I don't know. I mean, it kind of is what it is. If it was your grandmother and you had the resources, or your mother and you had the resources to get the help, I'm pretty sure anybody would. So you can't really, I don't know how you can be mad at that,
Yeah, it's the fact that it had so much attention at the very beginning was off-putting to a lot of people for the reasons you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
there are people that go missing, dozens of people, if not hundreds of people, go missing every day. Why was, it was obvious to those with any kind of common sense that, Savannah Guthrie's mom, and she had a platform that was, pretty, pretty significant,
Right.
working on network television. So, but 7 weeks later, we are no closer. And so you've got to go back and kind of look at the story and say, one, there was a lot of emphasis on this right away, which you would always hope for. If it was one of your loved ones, the most attention you could get in the first, 72 hours, actually increases the chance of being found or recovered or whatever. And now just day by day, as it goes on and on and on, the likelihood of a good outcome to this is almost nil at this point. But it does make you go back and question, like, law enforcement. There was a lot of conflict between the local sheriff's department. There was questions about the competency. Why wasn't the FBI involved? This was a local jurisdiction thing. Like, all of those questions, were being asked and are going to have to be re-examined as this, comes to some sort of resolution at some point. As sad as this is, and it happens with all of these cases, this case is going to go to the bottom of the pile. Like, they won't continue to put forth, a crazy amount of resources on something that, the likelihood of a good outcome becomes less and less.
Right.
It was great for a very short period of time that this kind of emphasis could be shown to this case. But at this point, the fact that it even pops back up in the news cycle 7 weeks later is pretty unexpected, because it's eventually whenever it is, another from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, it's going to cycle back and they're going to say, hey, they found,
remains or something. Yeah.
Remains or something like that. So,
it's, it is pretty wild. And again, to touch on the, media coverage of it, it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it is shocking when it's somebody who's, in the celebrity fame, well-known world. It's kind of a matter of course that will get more media attention. It doesn't necessarily mean that it gets more law enforcement attention. I mean, it can certainly, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. But geez, and I would say, based on one of the quotes here I have in front of me, the family just made a recent plea on her behalf, and the quote is, "We won't stop until she's brought home or laid to rest." So they're, obviously, they're being, realistic here as well, which, at this point you kind of have no choice. But like any family member in the same circumstances, they're holding out hope, because you need to, you need to cling to that. But no matter what, it is sad, and I think you would have thought with all that scrutiny, something would have happened a lot sooner. It seemed like it, like you said, it seemed pretty hot at first. Of course, there were missteps and questionable things, which always leads to immediately, all of the conspiracies to start up, and the speculations, and the, armchair detectives are hard at work solving the case from their living room or their basement, which is, I have such an extreme exhaustion right now with the whole thing. Hence that video I mentioned at the top of the show of, just kind of just calling out the whole, particularly the independent. And we talked a little bit about this last week, but the independent media world that I'm, it's certainly part of, we're part of it. But in the general sense, I'm real sick of what a lot of them are doing. And again, we touched on that last week. You guys can go back and watch that show. All of our shows, guys, are up on the platforms. You can watch those anytime. You can go back, and if you want to get a gotcha moment, that we said something and it didn't happen, you're welcome to go back and watch it and find it. But this is pretty consistent. We are very consistent in what we say. I don't think we deviate too much from our opinions, right?
No, I don't think so. And if we do, we acknowledge the fact that we've changed, or that new information has come forward, and there's a reason to change. I think, we made some speculation, or at least I think we were relaying some of the speculation that was out there when she first disappeared about relationship with the Clintons and some other things. And those were kind of all over social media, as this was happening. And all of that has kind of faded away. all of that noise associated with this case has faded away. And really what it gets back to is the humanity of this, as you said, which is it's a family looking for their mother.
Yeah.
And, whether they've got a national platform that they can lean on or not, that's kind of where this is. And, I think the Guthrie family, we all wish the best for them, but I think the best for them at this point is just getting resolution on it. And I think that would help them exponentially.
Yeah. It's a pretty wild thought that, like you mentioned 2 years from now or whatever, that, this could very, very potentially become like a cold case and something that just gets revisited at a later time. And, I hope for closure for them. You hope for the most shocking, surprising in a good way outcome here, that she is actually safe somewhere. But, realistically, that's probably not the case, but, prayers to them for sure. Absolutely. I'm losing my headphones every 2 seconds. They're dropping out of my ears here. That's all right. So let's see. And of course, if there's anything new that comes up with that, we'll revisit it as well, obviously. But right at the top of the show, Clay mentioned my travel plans. So let's talk about this. ICE is coming to the rescue at least some of the major airports, some of the hardest hit ones. I saw some video. I'm sure everybody did. Did you see, Clay? There were lines, TSA pre-check lines that were like around the building, out into the parking.
4 and 5 hours in some places.
Yeah,
I heard. Maybe you can add an airport or two, but I heard specifically Atlanta, Houston, Chicago. Orlando might have been one, or was it Tampa? There was one that might have been Miami, but there was a Florida airport in there. I, interestingly enough, haven't heard LAX. I did hear LaGuardia, but that also has to do with the that tragic incident that happened at LaGuardia. But yeah, so massive 4 and 5 hour wait times at some of the bigger airports, and I guess it was late last Friday or even early Saturday morning, it started to hit the newswire that President Trump decided that, to ease this because Congress can't unscrew themselves, that he was going to augment TSA with ICE agents. And of course, there was a lot of speculation. Is he serious? Is this really going to happen? And then, no kidding, as with everything else in this administration, come Monday morning, there was ICE agents walking into airports, and it was all over the news. It was all over the outlets that the ICE agents were coming in. Nobody really knew or understood what the role was going to be for ICE agents in this. What I've seen or interpreted through, whether it's film clips or whatever, is they're doing a lot of crowd control and trying to ease, because, obviously you were talking about this before we started when you and I were chatting. Tensions get high, people get anxiety from travel. I am not the greatest traveler in the world. I'm a huge, the best thing for me is the USO system as a veteran. I love the U.S. because it's a place I can go and it's very quiet. So I can go, I don't have to sit at the gate. I can avoid all the craziness of the terminals, but people, it's a stressful situation, especially if you feel like you're potentially going to miss your flight. It seems like the ICE agents that I've seen I saw pushing carts around with waters. Oh, wow. I saw instances of ICE agents holding people's place in line for emergency bathroom. Yeah. Like, hey, I've been in line for 2.5 hours. Like, I can't, I've seen instances of that. But in general, they're not really taking, that I've seen, a lot of responsibility away from TSA. I think they're more in helper mode. Okay. But it's nice to have helpers who are badged and armed to keep things kind of, civil the way they're supposed to be. So. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, in my world, that would give me personally tremendous comfort to see them around when, how many, even before this, of course, how many videos have we seen of late over the past, I don't know, year or two or so, whatever, of people just, losing, mostly on the airplanes, but there's certainly plenty of videos of these brawls that, break out in the middle of these lines and all of that stuff. I don't want any part of that. So yeah, I would definitely,
would be thrilled beyond words if I knew that there were ICE agents or, any type of law enforcement close by at hand to just calm everybody the heck down and keep them from escalating. And honestly, and listen, I'm definitely not justifying getting into fights and all of those things. And like, not by a long shot am I justifying that. But I will say I get that level of tension and anxiety. It made me think right away of a few years back. Well, probably about 3 years back when we just had one grandbaby and one on the way. And we were going for Christmas, and we were going, I think we decided to travel Christmas Eve, which is pretty risky in itself. And there was like an ice storm that had happened at some point during the day, and the flight was delayed. And I was like, I was getting panicky. Like, I was in tears. I was panicking that I was going to miss my grandchild's Christmas, and so I get how people escalate, because you really want to get to your destination, and the littlest thing can set you off. And so I'm just going to urge everyone who is traveling to, I'm saying this for myself. I'm saying this for myself out loud, and anybody else who needs to hear it can heed this advice too, which is calm down. Calm down. It's all going to be fine, and you will hopefully get to where you need to go. And if you don't, just stay calm.
It'll still be there wherever you're going.
It'll still be there, even if it's a little bit later. And all of the things. So yes, and I'm definitely trying to talk myself down here, because I am definitely, it's one of the kids' birthdays, and I do not like to miss a birthday. I don't think I ever have. I don't think I've missed any of their birthdays, but I don't
forget why we're here with this. I mean, this is continued DHS, partial government shutdown, instigated by the Democrats. There's that's not even politicizing anything. That's just a fact.
Right. Yeah.
And so what you've got is, the Democrats are refusing to pass funding for DHS. This is in the anti-ICE, anti-BPS, open borders, campaign that they've got going on.
Yep.
And so there's, rising tensions inside of Congress. Congressman Kennedy he did it, I think yesterday. I know he did it today, but he said he's going to continue to do it every day. He is putting forth, a motion that all of Congress has their pay halted until it is resolved. He also has put forth that none of them should be allowed to leave DC until it's resolved.
That's right.
And so he put it forth today. I don't know who it was. I think it was one of the elected officials from Hawaii who were
Shots. Yep, I just made a video about it. Yeah,
I object, and then ran it.
Ran literally. I think so. Let me see if this is the right one. I'm gonna have to put this up here.
Told me, we had a conversation last night. Said he was going to object. I respect that, and if he has left the building, I don't want to go behind his back. I mean, I could move to reconsider and blindside him, but I don't want to do that. So why can't I move to reconsider, subject to us waiting for Brian to get back, so he has a full opportunity to be heard? Can I do that?
There's no such motion.
Sure there is. I just made it. Are you saying that the motion's out of order? Look, this is a serious matter now.
Yes, it would take unanimous consent.
This is a serious matter. Now, we've established that this resolution doesn't affect the House. It just says to the senators, while we're in a shutdown, no senator is going to be paid. You don't lose your money. You pick it up after it's over, after the shutdown's lifted. This went through the Rules Committee unanimously. Did I mention it went through unanimously? That every single Democrat and every single Republican said, yes, Kennedy, let's do this.
So I absolutely love him. I just love that man. Isn't he just, he's just a treasure. He really is. But yeah, so yes, it was Schatz from Hawaii who was an absolute coward and objected and literally ran out of the room. And of course you heard what Kennedy had to say, and he blasted him, rightly so. And, unfortunately, it wasn't enough to just stop this nonsense. But how disgusting is that? How absolutely disgusting is that?
Well, and it's crazy, the hypocrisy. I mean, we should all be unsurprised by the hypocrisy at this point.
Yeah.
But as things progressed in chambers today, there was also a demand resolution put forth that conservatives essentially validate the results of the 2020 presidential election.
Oh boy, no, I did not hear that.
They can't get this resolved, but yet they want to go back in time.
Yeah.
So that, there's no more, essentially they're trying to alleviate the argument or any standing where, somebody can argue the results of the 2020 presidential election.
Yeah, give me a break.
Come on, folks. We have better things to worry about. We have bigger things that need to be resolved. It's the craziness of what goes on in Congress nowadays is shameful. This happens virtually every day. There's something stupid that happens every single day. This is, I think it was Hirono who was like, well, we don't have to worry about voter ID because it's already illegal for non-residents to vote. So why do we have to have the SAVE Act? It's already illegal. This is a woman who wants to ban guns because of gun crime,
right.
But says people would be risking, being deported if they voted illegally. Why? No one does this. So the literal stupidity of the people that are elected in office right now is unbelievable. We've said this before, and I continue to revisit this. When John Fetterman is the voice of reason from the left, we are in a different world right now.
We truly are.
Yeah, we have gone down. We are Alice in Wonderland.
We really are.
That is where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, that is a day. If you had said that to me, 3 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. I would have said, you're on drugs. You're just silly, because there's no possible way that man will be a voice of reason. And, here he is. And again, he's never going to be a guy that, that I would ever vote for anything by any means. He's still very much on the left, but he's certainly more moderate in a lot of key issues. So the Democrat Party would fare way better. Actually, this country would fare way better if there were, can't believe I'm saying it, more like him on that side. And more, and I think they do exist. I think there are a lot like him, but they're scared of, the lunatics running the asylum right now. And they know that, they just are outnumbered, so they just won't say anything. But, good grief. It's all you can do is shake your head and laugh a little bit, right? Because otherwise we'll be throwing things, losing it.
Folks, if you are traveling in the near future, and just a last kind of word before we move on is please plan accordingly.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. Go to the social media or the website for the airport that you are using 24 hours in advance. Stay apprised, because it may be 4 and 5 hours wait time just to get through security. And so, you can plan ahead, you can be proactive, you can lower your own anxiety level and of that, of everyone around you by knowing and understanding what you're walking into. And even if it means changing your travel plans, but don't be that person who, shows up 2 hours before their flight. It has been since 9/11. But, don't show up 2 hours before and then have a panic attack and throw a conniption fit, in the security line because now it's 4 and 5 hours. And please, for the love of God, do not forget this come November. Do not forget this.
Do not forget what they did. They did. And and let's not forget we are right at the edge of another pretty big travel holiday. Is it the biggest travel holiday? But it's no, but it's still a travel holiday with Easter coming up, and that is obviously it's going to affect a lot of people, a lot of things. So, like Clay said, and I'm going to repeat what Clay said last week. It was excellent advice that I took. Download the TSA tracker app. I have it up. I'll be keeping an eye on it between, tonight and early tomorrow morning to check where we're at. Again, I think we're pretty good for our location. It's not, a crazy busy airport, but traveling home might be a different story. I mean, stop, trap me in Florida. Oh no, make me stay longer with my grandbabies. Boo.
Except that there's still thousands of college spring breakers down there, so I don't know how much of that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my goodness. So yeah. And with any luck at all, and it would take a whole heck of a lot of luck, maybe by the time y'all watch this, it'll be all cleared up and it won't even be an issue. We'll see. I don't think that's the case. Another thing we wish was all cleared up and not an issue, but it is. Gas prices are climbing again, but you can blame the strait, not the pump. From airport lines to straight to your wallet, gas just hit $3.94 a gallon nationwide, up $1 since the Iran conflict kicked off. Families are feeling it at the pump, while the Strait of Hormuz, is that how you say it?
Correct.
Thank you. I just had a panic moment. I'm like, that's not right. That's right. Stays jammed. Is this corporate greed? No. Or is it global reality biting us? Because bad actors won't stand down. Obviously, just by the way I read that, you can guess what my opinion is on that. But what are you thinking, Clay?
So I think there's a couple of places that we can point fingers. I won't necessarily say lay blame. One is, yes, there is, and we all know this, right? Gas, the price of oil will go up. And instantaneously, we will feel it at the pump.
Mm-hmm.
However, none of us, when oil goes back down, do we see the immediate drop at the pump at the same rate. Okay, right. So there is undeniably, as we all know, a level of greed that comes with this.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. I am who I am with the background that I've got. I look at this and I say, this, truthfully, for those folks that planned this operation, and when operation, I'm saying these attacks into Iran, there's probably a few planners out there who knew the geographic importance of the Strait of Hormuz, knew the impact on it for commerce, and probably understood that that things were going to be disrupted. Now, I personally believe that we could have done better in planning to prevent or minimize the impact at the Strait of Hormuz. I think we probably could have pre-positioned some, or at least in the first 72 hours of the attacks, we could have moved ships in there to regulate this, to minimize the impact, or even just to take over. I think we could have done better. And, I'm sure that people are going to disagree with me or whatever, but I think we could have done better. I think this could have been probably not avoided entirely, but definitely less than what it is now. I know that we've been pushing assets in there in very creative ways to, minimize the impact. We've been using aircraft to destroy small ships that have never been used to destroy small ships before. A-10s, which, anybody who's ever been in the military loves an A-10. It's a cool aircraft that was designed to kill tanks, and now it's being used to kill ships. We found some creative solutions. I just think that had a little bit of better planning, we could have avoided or minimized the impact of this. So do I think it's going to get resolved? Yes. Do I think that, there's some help that we could be asking for? I know that Japan's been asked. I know that NATO nations have been asked. I know that, President Trump gets a little bit prickly with folks at times. And so, I know the Brits specifically, and we're going to talk about this in a little while, we'll come help. Oh, sure. Now you want to come after it's over with. Now you want to come and help after the war's over with. Blah. And so, I think diplomatically, we probably could have done a better job with this as well. So I hope that we see this resolved and we feel and see that decrease at the pump as quickly as we've seen the increase. But we all know, and prepare yourselves, folks, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. I have the Energy Secretary Wright saying that prices could normalize by summer.
Yeah, it went up in a day, though. I literally on Saturday, I went and did some stuff. I left in the morning and gas was $3.69 at this gas station along the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was coming back from what I did 6 hours later, 409, jumped
Wow.
40 cents at one pump in one day, actually in
Wow.
the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So what we won't see is we won't see gas fall 40 cents in a day ever. It's just it doesn't happen that way, which is disingenuous.
Yeah, it is. And it's very frustrating. You know, just a silly, stupid story. I play this game. So I used to play this game. Well, actually, I still do. The joke has always been like, if Elsa has gas in her truck, like where is, and this was like a running joke on social media with friends and family, and people would always send like memes of the empty gas tank picture, and they're like, and the full one, whatever, and they'd be like, which one are you? Well, we know which one Elsa is, ha 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 ha, and it's always the joke, because I don't know, I mean, I don't know, I just hate doing it. Like, I can do it, and I do, but then it does become this thing like, how far can I go? Do not yell at me, guys. I know it's not good for the truck. I know. Okay. I do it anyway. So I had this thing where my husband was lovely, and he filled up my truck, like filled it to the brim, right to the, as much as you could, because he knows how I am. And I got this idea. I'm like, I wonder how long I can make this tank of gas last. And I just would like to, I call it a brag, you may not. I did not have to fill up the truck again for, it was almost 6 weeks. That tells you how little I drive around, that I am such a homebody. 6 weeks in a big old truck. And yeah, I was very proud of it. And yes, I did wait till it got all the way down to like 2 miles before I had to fill it up. And anytime I tell people that, they're like, that's so bad for the truck. Stupid girl. So yeah, now I'm going to do it even more, is really, that was my long-winded point. Like, I'm going to make it last until the summer.
I was a young captain in the Army. I used to have a Jeep Wrangler that, for whatever reason, after I bought it, and I bought it used, but after I bought it, at 1/8 of a tank, the gas gauge stopped.
Oh.
Yeah, it just wouldn't go any further.
Yeah.
And, like, I knew that at 175 on the, and I had to hit the trip meter every single time I filled up with gas. But at about 175 miles, because it was a small tank, that I had to stop and get gas.
Oh, that's funny.
It hit the 8th, and it wasn't going any further. So it's the hard way sometimes.
Yes, I have. If anybody wants to know, yes, there was one time years ago I did run out of gas. I pushed it too far. Did I learn my lesson? Absolutely not. Not a chance. Just made me more stubborn, more determined. Oh my goodness. Well, I kind of ruined our segue here by segueing, but we will move into this because, of course, it is all related. Trump is hitting pause on the Iran strikes. Again, guys, just to echo what Clay already told you, we are recording tonight on Tuesday because I am getting on an airplane pretty soon, and I'll be traveling, and we didn't want to miss an opportunity to chat about all of these topics. So if you're watching this on Thursday, things could have changed by that point. So don't get mad and say we haven't been paying attention. We're just, it's Tuesday for us. What do you think of this, Clay? I always defer to you on these ones. You know that.
Yeah. So, President Trump has spoken a few times, and so that he put out an ultimatum late last week, to Iran that said basically, we're gonna obliterate all of your power plants, your energy capability, blah 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 blah. And now, and it was, the deadline was Monday, and Monday came around, and supposedly Iran has been talking. There's been talks with Secretary Rubio, with Vice President Vance, even with the president said Jared Kushner is involved, as well as himself. And so on Monday, he said, we're going to pause the obliteration of all of their power plants because they're coming forward. Now, today, again, Tuesday, there's this, I don't know what this is. It's been this floating weird headline that says that Iran is giving this gift. The headline says, they're a significant present Iran is giving us, which has to do with something with the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know exactly. I don't know if they're giving us a bunch of free oil. I have no idea. But he pressed pause on this threat. Now, at the same time, there has been a brigade from the 82nd Airborne Division, which is at the troop level is about 3,000 paratroopers that are being pushed from Fort Bragg into the Middle East. That hit the news wire today. I confirmed that with personal sources that I have since I spent about 10 years in that organization and still know a lot of people there. So there are folks, that is happening. So we are pushing, troops forward. I know that Marines have been, if not alerted, from the United States. I think it may be some of the Marines that are afloat with the Navy, in the region have been told to be prepared for ground operations. And I think that all goes along with what President Trump is talking about, like, hey, and it has to do with Clark Island, but regardless, a lot of threats being made, and supposedly Iran is now talking. And so we're pausing strikes. Now, there has been, the president was trying to, make this deal. He was trying to, as he is, that's who he is. He's a businessman. He makes deals. And there was a point where I think around Saturday, Israel was still going full bore. Like they were, it seemed in the media to be that they were on their own agenda. They were striking targets. It seemed like they weren't necessarily in concert with what we were doing or what the president's intent was with Iran. So I think that is also backed off, but not too sure. So we'll continue to watch, but right now it seems like there's a lull in what's going on. I still don't believe that this ends without U.S. troops boots on the ground. And I also don't believe that we leave a Islamic regime, religious-based regime in place. So I think regime change is still on the agenda, and I think that requires boots on the ground. But for right now, it seems like we're all taking a pause and a breath, and we're going to see how this works itself out over the next few days.
Yeah, it's such a tough one because, because of the history of that region, it feels like there's only two options, and one of them is to completely and utterly obliterate them, and the other option is to step away from it and just not. And neither one is great, really. I mean, obviously the first one means, like you said, boots on the ground, loss of life of our own people, which, loss of lives of innocent people, all of the things that war brings. And then, the next layer to that, of course, is this going to be one of those never ending wars because of what goes on in that region? But the flip side of that also, right, is that, like, these are people who chant death to America. They're not content with just staying in their little pocket of the universe and just being left alone. Like, you could actually respect that. Like, if they're saying, just let us be, we're going to do our own thing. Nobody bother us and we won't bother anybody. That's obviously, we all know that that's not the case. So I don't really know what the choice is here. And I know that's the constant argument, and I'm not offering a solution here. I couldn't possibly, but, I don't know. It's so hard. And I think for like the average Americans, which is what I consider myself, it's so overwhelming to think about, because what's the answer, Yeah.
And we're trying to find the best of a bunch of bad options. War is no longer prosecuted by the United States in the sense of, we are a you break it, you bought it nation now. Ever since probably, you could argue post Desert Storm, but really Iraq 2003 and even Afghanistan, we don't go in and blow stuff up and do regime change and kill people and take leaders out of the way without turning around and fixing everything that we broke, with the intent of reestablishing a new and stable nation. That's the way war is prosecuted by the United States now. So I don't see, even with this new administration, I don't see us making a left turn from that and saying, hey, Iran, we told you, and we bombed the crap out of everything, not just your military capabilities, but a lot of civilian capabilities. And oh, by the way, we're just going to leave. We're going to leave you to your own devices, whatever happens. Like, I don't see that happening. So, right now, remnants of the IRGC, which is their, military arm are essentially running Iran. And we know that if we don't remove them, the Iranian people are not in a better place than they were 3 weeks ago.
Right.
So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of scenario. I still believe that we're going to end up with boots on the ground there. I know that, personally and professionally, colleagues of mine disagree with me, and that's okay. But this is nothing good is coming out of this right now. It's removal of the regime is important. Removing their nuclear and nuclear delivery capabilities is important. I just don't see that being done without the final step, which is complete regime change, which requires us to occupy. It's the way that it is. So at least in my personal professional opinion. So again, we're looking for the best of a bunch of bad options right now. And that's where we sit.
Yeah. Related, and you mentioned already, but Starmer, is the UK still our greatest ally? His hesitation says otherwise. So while Trump pauses for talks, the UK playing coy on full support. He is slow walking Starmer, that is slow walking base access, and Trump is calling him not Winston Churchill. Is this relationship still special, or is it gone fully transactional? What do you think of all this?
So there's a couple of parts to this. One is, obviously post American Revolution, they were our great enemy, during the Revolution and then beyond for a little while, but then they became our greatest ally. We became their greatest ally, like think World War I, World War II. England and the UK specifically was still very much an empire in the sense of they had a global presence, not a regional presence, but a global presence. And that global presence required global capabilities. They have, in modern times, degraded their own military to the point where they cannot be a global presence. They don't have that capability. And they're not alone. There are very few nations left in the world that have global presence, right? Us, China, Russia, a few others. There's just not many because it's become very expensive.
Right.
Now, that's militarily. Now, politically, are they still our greatest ally? I think in the last few weeks, with this newer, most recent administration in the UK, we are finding that they don't have interest in the same ways that we do outside of their own personal interests, which have now become very regional, right? The UK is not globally, truthfully relevant in a lot of cases, which they always were up until most recently. Their Navy is shrunk down to almost nothing. Their army is shrunk down to almost nothing. They're going through, reductions like worse than we are or have been. So where does that leave us, right? And, President Trump is not a fan, and neither am I, of NATO as it exists now, although it's on the upswing. So where does that leave us in terms of allies? I think we're revisiting some relationships. I think Japan right now is a great relationship that is, growing with the United States as far as militarily. A lot of people don't know Japan keeps a defense force, the JDF, which has been since the end of World War II, a non-deployable, non-offensive capability, very specifically because of World War II. We're seeing a different relationship with Japan. But I think where we're all sitting right now is our greatest ally, unfortunately, is also very regional, and that is Israel. Israel is our greatest ally, but truthfully, Israel only has a focus for what regionally affects them. They're also not a global power. They have global interests because so many things affect them, but they're not a global power because they have no reach outside of the Middle East, truthfully.
Right.
So I personally don't believe that the UK is, I don't think we have a best buddy anymore. I really, really don't. I think
That's so sad.
We're kind of floundering right now. Some of it is our own doing. Some of it is a refocus or a change of thought, but some of it is the nations that we have traditionally been allied very tightly with no longer have the capability. UK being one of them. Canada, politically, we don't have a lot of agreement with. So that is, a challenge as well. Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Rim, very, very important. But they're not the same, right? Outside of the Pacific Rim, they don't have a lot of interest in other places. So I think we're standing a lot on our own right now, dependent on the situation. And you can see the response to Iran in who is offering a hand to help and
Right.
who is not.
Yeah.
And Keir
Yeah, it's an
Starmer
eye opener
is a
for
great
sure.
example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is quite an eye opener for sure, and obviously for all of the obvious reasons you just say, very concerning. Very concerning. It's not a good feeling to be standing alone for us, and
Yeah. And we offer help often.
Yeah.
And we have the capability to do that. But it's not often, it is going to become less and less reciprocal, in the future. And again, I am not a fan of NATO because I don't think NATO has lived up to what it was supposed to be. And I don't think that, and I think they've let themselves atrophy to the point where, we looked at the beginnings of the Ukraine conflict and nobody could help except for us. Like nobody had the capability to help because they let their militaries degrade so much. And that's kind of where we stand in the world right now. So there is no global partner. I think we have a bunch of regional partners. I don't think we have any global partners anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, based on what you're saying, that sounds unfortunately accurate. Very accurate. Let's move on to this guy. He's still making lots of news, lots of conversation. I'm going to give the rundown, just kind of the update for anybody who's kind of not really paying that much attention to what's going on. So Joe Kent resigned over the war, hitting every show, not every show, but hitting a bunch of shows, saying that U.S. intel said no imminent threat and Israel's influence is too heavy. He's made the rounds to Tucker Carlson and a bunch of other shows, but like half of the right is pushing back, basically. I don't know if it's really half and half, but that's certainly what it feels like and what it sounds like. So Joe Kent was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He resigned on March 17th. And he posted his letter publicly on X. He wrote that he could not, and these are quotes, in quotes, in good conscience, support the ongoing war in Iran because Iran posed no imminent threat, which is what we said at the top of this one. And the U.S. entered the conflict due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby via a misinformation campaign that undermined Trump's America First agenda. And he referenced his 11 combat deployments and his wife's death in Syria in 2019 as shaping his opposition to sending Americans to die in another Middle East war. So that is the core of his position, his stated position in his own words, and what he's repeated in those interviews. So what everybody is basically seems to be agreeing on is that he had direct access to the intelligence community's threat assessments as the director. Those assessments showed no imminent Iranian attack on the U.S. homeland. But Israel and pro-Israel voices in the U.S. media pushed a narrative of urgent danger that did not match the intel. He says, or they say, that Trump was misled and the war violated non-interventionist spirit that won him the election. And he frames this as his loyalty to America First, not disloyalty to Trump. So that is basically what he's saying and what his supporters are saying. The Trump administration on the other side and the pro-war conservative side is calling the resignation a good thing. And Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that the letter was rife with inaccuracies and insulting, specifically rejecting the no imminent threat claim. So this goes on and on and on. This just kind of gives everybody the glimpse of what both sides of this conversation are saying. You have some people treating him as the highest level whistleblower, exposing Trump's reckless war, and then the other side saying exactly the opposite. So somewhere in the middle is the truth, right? Or I don't know, one is completely right and one's completely wrong. What do you say? You had pretty strong feelings on it last week. Where do you lie right now?
Yeah, I don't like the optics of this because he did immediately run to do a Tucker interview. He immediately ran and did Megyn Kelly. He was seen, and we did a whole segment on this last week. This crowd of people. He was seen at a public event with Candace Owens, right? And then he did a live shot, and I didn't see it, unfortunately, on Sean Ryan yesterday afternoon, who I'm also a fan of. Listen, I support Joe Kent's decision based on what he knew to walk away from his job. He decided to do it publicly. His decision, okay, fine. A lot of people had a lot of heartache with that. The optics of doing it publicly and then running to do all of these interviews combined together is a bad look. It destroys a lot of his credibility with a significant portion of America, because you've as much as he talked nicely about President Trump, and truthfully in all the interviews he didn't go after President Trump. It was all very respectful, but the fact that he did it with those people makes it very polarizing. I don't appreciate the fact that, and we said this last week, just because you're a veteran doesn't give you a pass. But what I've seen from a lot of folks who are hard right in the MAGA world veteran community is this guy who, again, operated at the highest level of things. People have completely dismissed everything that he's done, including the fact that, he had the highest clearance intelligence, accessibility that you could possibly imagine. You can look at it and say, well, Tulsi Gabbard also, if you look at what she said when she testified, what she said, she did not say, it's what she left out, which is important. She said it is the president's decision to determine who is and is not, or who is an imminent threat to the United States. What she didn't say was, I, as the director of national intelligence with 18 intelligence organizations that work below me, provided an intelligence assessment to President Trump that Iran was an imminent threat, and therefore he made these decisions to attack and destroy their capabilities. She didn't say that. What she said was, President Trump decided that they are an imminent threat, and it is within his right as the president to do so. Now, it's very important that she said what she said and how she said it. But again, Joe Kent is not doing himself any favors in the way he is handling this. And so I think it's sad that, like I said, there's some veteran influencers out there and some folks that, are online who did a lot less than he did. And truthfully, I could go on there and speculate about their own service, right? Everything that they've done could be thrown out the window for very similar reasons. It could all be, people could do that to me too. And that's fine. I get it. And people say, well, Joe Kent knew what he was doing, when he put this out publicly. Okay, fine. So be it.
Right.
But I think he and what he did and why he did it is being dismissed way too quickly. And he's not helping his cause by handling it the way that he's handling it with those specific media personalities. Right. He would have been better off going to go toe-to-toe with Jesse Waters. He would have been better off going toe-to-toe with any other mainstream media and defend his position than he is, truthfully, by going to more polarizing people and looking, and looking to them for validation in what he did. So I don't think he's handling it well. I still think, what he did based on what he believes, I think was the right thing to do. But again, he's not helping his cause.
No, he's definitely not. It's, I think it's just made things a lot worse because obviously this is such a divided group right now on, very key things. And, you have a pretty large segment of the right that right now is, full on dismissing, of course, Candace, now Tucker, now Megyn Kelly, and, feeling that they've kind of really gone off the rails. And like you said, and those are the ones that you chose to align yourself with, so to speak. Optics wise, it's not good. I would agree with you that, based on his statements, if that's how he feels, then he should have resigned. If you don't agree, and you can't, as he said, in good conscience, support that or work under those circumstances. I don't really see that there's any other choice in that. But again, just echoing you really that the route that he chose to go is certainly questionable. And it's the whole thing is just unfortunate. There's nothing worse than for the perceived enemy, which of course would be the left, to see to see us fracturing so hugely. And
listen, this is going to be, people still argue Iraq 2003 and WMDs. And this has the potential to be exactly the same thing. So this debate will go on for a very, very long time.
Let's go. I mean, is this lighter? I think it's lighter. It's lighter. It's
lighter.
It's a little lighter.
Folks, the topic is, I read an article about Las Vegas is really, they are hurting right now for a lot of reasons. Gambling in person is down because of the availability of online gambling, but also local state laws. There's more gambling. There's more casinos in the United States, where Vegas and Atlantic City used to be these two pockets that you could go and gamble, but now there's gambling everywhere. Vegas is also pricing itself out. Like it's the prices of everything are, crazy out of control in Las Vegas, and Vegas is dying. Like they are way, way down in like March Madness right now as the basketball tournaments are going on. They are down, I think, 15% in-person sports betting. That's a lot of money, folks. Because you've got the availability of all of the online betting sites, sports betting, et cetera, et cetera. Are you a Vegas girl? Were you ever a Vegas girl? Have you ever done Vegas?
So many, many years ago, there was a stretch where we went like every year. It was probably like maybe, I don't know, three or 4 years running, something like that. And I kind of had a love-hate with it. Like, I'm not a big gambler, so I was that little old biddy that sat there with her penny slots, and that was like the extent of what I was willing to do. I loved it for the shows, absolutely loved the shows. It was the first time I ever saw a Cirque du Soleil show, going back, more than 20 years, 20 plus years now at this point. And oh my gosh, it just dawned on me. I'm sorry, I'm taking a moment here to realize that was that long ago. Wow. But again, I was, don't shame me, guys, please. Once upon a time, I was a smoker. And at that time,
you're okay. I was.
Thank you. Yeah. Were you?
Oh yeah.
That actually surprised me.
I was through high school and college. And then as culture of the Army took hold, I chewed tobacco for a very long time. And then, because I was running every day. I got rid of that a couple of years ago and have been a good boy since.
Good job. Good on you. Yeah, I quit probably like 30 years ago now. And or I don't know, like 25 years, something like that. But I was still like a new-ish non-smoker. So I'm the worst kind, of former smoker. Everybody says we're the worst ones. And Vegas, it's just everybody's smoking and it's everywhere back then. And I couldn't, and I wear contacts. So I spent like the whole time I was there like this, because I couldn't see, because it was like just destroying my eyes, all the smoke. And, so yes and no, there were parts of it that I enjoyed quite a bit, and parts of it that I just did not. Now, since I had gone like several years in a row, I actually got my fill of it. Like, I'm over it. I'm done. I don't care if I ever go again. Which, apparently that's kind of a consensus. People are like, yeah, you know what? I'm good. And obviously your point there that you made, that, there's so many casinos and online betting and all that stuff, which, by the way, I think it's a terrible thing. I think it's awful. I think the access to gambling and betting and all of that stuff. And, no, I'm not this little Puritan, Dudley Do-Right by any means, but it's just another part of societal decay and decline. It's just, inviting people to more excess, and gambling is another one of them. And we all know this. Gambling is one of those things that absolutely has destroyed families and robbed people of their income with addiction and all of that stuff. So I think it's right up there with having pot dispensaries on every corner now, and all of the things that, that just basically tell society, you can do whatever you want. It's okay. And it's not okay. So I'm not really sad to see that. I'm sad for the people that work there. I mean, these are their livelihoods, and, that means that they're going to be losing their jobs at some point here. And it does make me a little sad as an Elvis fan to think of it as, like a end of a different era, what we picture in our mind. But
Yeah, I do enjoy playing poker. It's about the only gambling that I enjoy doing. There are now, poker rooms in a lot of places outside of, and then again, local casinos being available. I don't enjoy the quote unquote excesses of Vegas, as I don't drink anymore. So like, I like going to Vegas to play poker and things like that. Yes, I do. I don't really go to shows. I don't enjoy shows. And I don't drink. So I can do most of the Vegas stuff that I enjoy doing, which again is playing cards in a lot of places where I don't have to travel. I went to Vegas for a trade show, guns, ammunition, outdoor trade show kind of thing a couple of years ago. Had a good time. But that's really about it. Do I have a need or a desire to go back to Las Vegas for any reason? No, not really.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Online betting is dangerous. I'm the guy who, when I go play poker, I walk in there with $200. I don't have my ATM card with me.
Yeah.
The $200 is gone, or I get tired enough. I get up and I walk away from the table and I go back to my hotel room and go to sleep. Right. But online betting for a lot of people, when it's tied directly to a credit card, is super, super dangerous. And I agree. I think it's something that we've probably gone a little too far. We've tipped the balance, I think, in the wrong direction on that.
Yeah.
But Vegas is paying the price for that. And like you said, now you're talking about people's livelihoods. You're talking about a lot of people who are out there, working, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so there is, things felt throughout Vegas when the gambling goes down, then all facets of tourism go down, right? So if there's less gambling, then there's less hotels, there's less restaurants, there's less rental cars, all of it is less.
Everything.
So it's Vegas is it's a unique place. Again, I do enjoy it, and I don't want to see it die, but I think it's outgrown itself and it hasn't adapted well, in a lot of cases. So, folks, if you're Vegas people and you haven't been in a while, you might want to check before you go, because changing very quickly.
Although I will say there is one Vegas attraction that I do and would and hope to at some point go to, and it might not be what any of you think it would be, or maybe I tipped my hand a little. There is an annual, I'm assuming it still goes on, an annual Elvis convention. It's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. I definitely want to go to the Elvis convention. We've gone to small, local-ish, regional kind of ones. And let me tell you, if you have never been to an Elvis convention, we call them the Elvi. It is so much fun. So much fun. I get giddy over the whole experience. So for those of you, which is probably most of you that didn't know, I am an off the chain Elvis fan. So whatever.
Well, it's funny because I go when I have been to Vegas in the past, and I was stationed in California, just 2.5 hours from Vegas for a year. And then I made a couple of other trips, but I've done the other things besides the gambling. Like if you've been out, Stratosphere has a bunch of stuff on the roof. There's some attractions and rides on the roof of the Stratosphere, including being able to jump off at 850 feet off of the Stratosphere, which I have also done.
What a surprise, Clay. What a surprise.
What I haven't done is there's a zip line that you can go across the strip. And that one is still like on the bucket list. I got to do that one too. But
I do like zip lining. I would probably do that one. I would do that. Yeah. I love that actually. I had there's a place in like New Hampshire or something that we've gone to, and it's like a whole course. It's all zip lines, and there's like a couple of rappels, and then there's these like 3 rope bridges.
Yeah,
dude, you can send me from tree to tree on that zip line. I could even deal with the rappelling. I was okay with that. It was those stupid rope bridges that I was really like not okay with. Go figure. But anyhow, I digress. Vegas, man. I don't know. It's sad in a lot of aspects because that obviously is, that's such an iconic place, movie. I mean, you name it, everything, just that the whole aura of it. So it is sad to see something that has so much nostalgia.
Simultaneously, for different reasons. If you haven't been to Atlantic City in a while, Atlantic City is very different than it used to be. Like Atlantic City is don't walk the boardwalk at night. Unsafe. Right? There is a methadone clinic right in the middle of Atlantic City. Drug
Jeez.
use is out of control.
Oh,
That is a go into the casinos and stay there.
wow.
Go outside kind of environment right now, at least not at night. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting to see those two locations devolve, as a lot of people have predicted, as modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, but it is what it is.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Last but not least, we'll hit it real quick. The comments section. Nothing wild, nothing crazy. What do we got here? We got a couple here. This one was interesting to me to watch, not only on our comments from the podcast, but also in videos that I've made separately on my platforms regarding this one says, I've left Tucker, Megan, and Candace behind. This was actually even more of a general sentiment that I've heard from people, because I actually expected a lot of aggressive pushback similar to what I got with just Candace alone. And I think that tide is turned quite a bit, that a lot of people are seeing the same things that I or we are seeing with those particular people and that group. And I mean, all I can say, guys, is what I said in my video. I think I put it out today. I don't even know, tell you the truth, is that you should not be looking at, these are podcasters. They are content creators. They are, they're independent media. Yes. Are they journalists? Not so much. Maybe Tucker was once upon a time. Megan definitely was more of one once upon a time. But they're going where the clicks are. They're going where the ratings are. They're going where the money is, and they're going very, very tabloid in their approach. And if you like that, keep watching it. If you don't, then don't. I mean, I'm in the don't category for sure. But all I can say about it is you should not be looking to those people or us as authorities, as end all be all knowledge factories of things. We and they are like everybody else in that, for the most part, we don't have inside information. We're not inside these rooms where these decisions are being made and all of those things. These are people who are giving opinions. And if you're treating their opinions as if they are facts, you have a big problem. You need to do your own research. We say this, I feel like we say this once an episode, Clay, right? Like just do your own research. I know it sucks. I know it's not fun to do, and you'd rather have somebody just tell you what's going on. I would rather just have somebody tell me what's going on, but we don't live in that world anymore. Or if we ever did, I don't even know, where you're going to get unbiased information, right?
Well, and you and I say this all the time. We are not journalists. We have never claimed to be journalists. Right. We are people who provide an opinion. And that is where we sit and have always sat there. But I did see a comment, and I should have screenshotted it, where somebody basically was like, "Oh, you guys are criticizing them. You guys are criticizing." I think it was Candace specifically. Like, "Oh, big surprise, the Elsa Kurt show." Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, that's the difference, though, is that we have never claimed to be anything but editorialized. Thing like that's all this is, and we've been very, very transparent about that. So and that includes our opinion about them.
Right? Yeah, that's just an opinion.
It's our opinion. We don't like it.
Right?
But you've got another one.
I do. Where is that one? Wrong one. Let's try it again. This one's tiny. I'm going to read it for you. It says, I hear your thoughts on Joe Kent, but I don't agree that he's being canceled. Quite the opposite, really, given the media tour he's been doing and the conversations being had on both sides concerning him. Again, this was one I'm going to be honest, Clay. I thought you were going to get a lot of pushback. I thought you were going to get a lot of angry fish shakers in that. And that really wasn't the case. I mean, I'm sure there were some, but I honestly didn't even see them. But like I said, I'm sure there's some. Just a different perspective. And I actually found that the comments, maybe it's because they know that they might get called out. I feel like the comments have been very respectful. Very respectfully, I disagree.
Yeah. And listen, Joe Kent is, and to really kind of address that comment, talked about it today. Joe Kent, by a portion of the right, is being canceled, right? Yes, there is a portion of the right, the Tucker, Megan, Candace portion of the right are giving him all kinds of space and platform to say what he wants. But there is a portion of the right that is essentially saying he's a traitor, he's this, he's that, cancel him, don't listen to him, he doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, there's a difference of opinion. But he, regardless of that, the right, who have railed against cancel culture, have been the ones who have been trying to cancel him, whereas the left is like, let him talk. You know?
Yeah.
So just very interesting. But again, you know, that is a viewer's opinion. Respect their opinion. I appreciate them expressing it, and good for them.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I love the respectfulness. I saw that on a few comments. I was like, what's this one's going to be? Oh, okay. All right. Like it's a disagreement, you know, but it's pretty decent. I mean, there's always the tools, the one-liner tools in there, but that's okay. I would, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, that is it. That's all of the topics for this week. We hit them all. We ran a little bit over time. That's okay. That's all right. It's all good. Clay, would you like to close them away? I'll say one thing, which is, I cannot wait to get on that plane to go see my babies. Okay. Now you can close them out.
Yeah. Safe travels to you. And I think, is it me next week? It
is. Clay is going to hold down the fort next week, guys.
Yeah, I may bring a guest on. I'm not positive yet. I'll do a little something different, but Elsa will be enjoying the grandbabies next week on a little bit of a vacation. So you will have me and potentially a guest. And so safe travels to you, young lady. And
Thank
from
you.
me, as always, keep moving, keep shooting.
Take care, guys.
The headlines will change by tomorrow, but the patterns won't. Thanks for spending this time with us. We'll be back to keep asking the harder questions and telling the quieter truths. Until then, stay grounded, be discerning, and we'll see you next time.